Hello. I'm terrified to come on last because the nightmare of being a comedian is everyone thinks you can be very funny, but I'm not a stand-up, and I've never done stand-up, and I'm even more annoyed that Shed is here. Because actually the last time Shed and I met, I don't know if he remembers, was when he was working on The Big Breakfast, and I broke into the garden live during the show dressed as a Pepperami sausage. I can't remember quite why, but anyway, I never made it to the window, but I was arrested, and I remember being dragged out of Planet 24 with Shed going, yeah, go on, fucking take him. And I spent the rest of the day in Limehouse police station, and they took the pepperami sausage off, but I just had kind of brown stocking on, and they put me in with a burglar who just stared at me all the time, just thinking, I don't know what you're in here for. But even dumber, it was on the actual day that the first Trigger Happy went out. And what do? I kind of gate crashed Channel 4's kind of flagship program, so it could have gone terribly wrong. But nice to see you still working well, Shed. And thanks for your help with all that police stuff, because it was absolutely fine. The problem is I don't really have much to say about my book, because the whole point of writing a book to me is that you read it, and I don't really want to talk about it. I've always think it's a bit weird when you have to go and read your book at festivals, because it's like just basically saying, right, now listen to my genius. And so I'd have preferred to talk about other people's books. You had props, which helps. The book I actually wanted to write, which I was thinking about last year, because I'm married to a Canadian, and Canada is cooler than you think. And I wanted to write a book about kind of driving across Canada and make Canada cool. But apparently Bill Bryson tried this as well, and when he went and suggested it to his publisher, it was the equivalent of suggesting you write a book on sort of kiddie fiddling. So I had to do this. And it's slightly annoying because you kind of find that in the same way that when I did Trigger Happy, I'm now linked to mobile phones for the rest of my life, and great, it's very exciting. Now I'm writing golf. I'm going to get all these weird offers for golf. And golf's just a crap game. It's really naff. And I grew up golf was Tarby and Pro-Ams and just rubbish, basically. But I have, in my middle age, started playing it. And the reason I wrote this book was I'd always want to write a letters book. And I was playing with someone who always played with a little tiny dog that literally did nothing. And he said that someone had written a letter to the golf club complaining that this dog had put him off his shot on the next, fairway, which is totally impossible. But it did make me realise that golf clubs are probably the last place where, A, people write proper letters of complaint. They don't have emails or mobiles. Because the problem with writing a letter book now is you write a letter, and then they just send you one back saying, well, here's my email me. And you're like, no, I'm writing a letters book, I can't do that. So I should have done an email thing. But anyway, golf clubs do write back, but not that occasionally, because I'm holding my manuscript here. It's more a samizdat than a book, but we haven't got the illustrations in yet, which is really going to fluff it up. But the problem is, the letters are really funny, but the problem is you send it off, and then that's it. You just have to sit and wait for someone to write back, and it is a nightmare. So I used to just sit there waiting for the postman to come, hoping I'd have something I could then write back to. And obviously my postman now thinks I'm living with this weird family called Lindsay Bird. But I don't know, I don't really want to read any, basically, but I'll kind of talk through what they are. Basically, the idea is there's a family, and they're a very odd family. There's Colonel Arthur J. Lindsay Bird, who fought in Aden, seems to be heavily scarred, has complaints about all sorts of things. So he goes to a golf club, and for instance, all's going well till the fourth tee, when he hears a commotion in the bushes and finds 6 gentlemen involved in a dogfight with 2 Rottweilers. So he writes to the club complaining about this, and I got some fantastic letters back saying, never in my 20 years as club secretary have I ever heard of a dogfight. And you think, well, good, I'm very pleased with that. But my favourite letter was one I'd written ages ago. I mean, the reason I kind of like letters was when I was making Trigger Happy right at the beginning, and I realised that Channel 4 would pay for us to go abroad. So I thought, I've got to think of some snow jokes. And we went off skiing for 2 weeks on Channel 4. And we did get a couple of jokes. And we went to New York and got nothing. But in New York, we went to a place called Carnegie's Deli, which is the naffest place in New York. It's where you go as part of your New York tour, and it's got pictures of everyone that's eaten there. And they have these stupidly big sandwiches. And this guy came up to me, and he's like the sort of professional New Yorker. He's like Huey from Fun-Loving Criminals. And he's like, what do you want? You want some pastrami? And I said, is that the same as salt beef? I had no idea. And he just looked at me like, and he was playing the sort of professional, angry New Yorker. And he goes, what are you fucking saying? Pastrami, salt beef? Of course it's not. Where the fuck are you from? So I'm like, okay, you've done your thing. I'm a foreigner. So at the end, I went up to him and I apologized. And it was a kind of joke. I said, look, I'm really sorry about that whole thing and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it. You've forgotten about it. But I didn't forget about it. And for the next 3 years, I wrote him a series of letters, which have never been published, but they were just for fun. So I wrote him one when I got back, again apologizing for the whole pastrami, salt beef confusion, and it was a bit of a nightmare. And he didn't reply. And then I sent him another one 2 weeks later, letting him know that my wife had now left me because of the thing that had happened in New York. I think I sent him 32 letters in the end. And when I went back about 3 years later, he'd sadly left and died. Someone told me, I don't know if it's true, but if you go to a restaurant, there's skate on the menu. Now, skate I've never really liked. Occasionally they think, oh, it's funny, not steak and chips, skate and chips. But it's always skate wing. And there's a reason for that, because the skate in the fisherman's world is known as the fisherman's friend. I don't know if you ever looked at a skate, but between the two wings is a kind of tubular body. And when fishermen are out on the long nights for ages, they use this for solace. And so anyway, I wrote to these various clubs and said that basically all had been going well, got to the 7th tee, until I heard a noise, went over a dune. So I had to choose golf clubs that were near the sea. And I saw 3 gentlemen in fisherman's gear with no trousers, and one of them was in flagrante delicto with said skate. And I loved that idea, because I thought, well, how are they going to deal with that? And I didn't get anything back for ages. And then finally I got 2 letters back. One, again, just did the classic, in my 30 years as secretary of the golf club, I have never heard of anyone doing this with a skate, but he apologised and promised me that this wouldn't happen again, which was quite good. But the second guy sent me actually quite a funny letter and told me that although the skate thing was quite common in Ireland, the seals were the best ones, and that I'd missed that particular thing, and he sent me a pack of fishermen's friends. And that's the slightly annoying thing about this. When someone writes back and gets the joke and writes something funny, you just think, no, I don't want your funny letters. I just want you to, you fuck off. I just want you saying I'm sorry, and then I'll write another funny letter. And unfortunately, I got quite a few that were really funny, but I'm not putting them in, because obviously I'd have to pay them then. So, this is the book. I will one day write the Great Canada Extravaganza, but for the moment it's this. And I think that's almost all the letters, maybe not. But when we've finished, it'll be about that thick, and it'll have loads of stuff, and it'll have more in it than the Ali G Christmas album, which was shite, but sold 1 million, and I'm not bitter. So anyway, thank you very much, and Shed, I think you owe me a drink.